Hello everyone, and welcome to this GenAIScript video. My name is Pelly, and today I'm going to be talking about the command line interface, also known as CLI. And that's a tool that can run in a terminal and that can run scripts. And it can take files or it can take Unix pipes and spit out the results. So let's take a look at the docs. As usual, you can search for things in our docs and you'll find a very extensive guide on the CLI and where it lives, how to run it. Basically, you can run it with something called npx without installation. It's great to get started. It's a bit slow to start, so there's a better way to do it if you're using that repeatedly. Worth mentioning, we need Node version 20 at least, so if you're on 18, it'll crash. And as I mentioned, there's ways to install it so that it starts up faster, but that's one more step. All right, so once you have the CLI, what you can do is, most importantly, you can run scripts. And that's going to be the number one usage of the command line interface, which is the run command, the script ID, which is basically the script file name without GenAI, and whatever files you want to add on as well. If you have parameters, you can also specify them in the CLI. Worth mentioning that this is Unix piping compatible, so you can cat a file, pass it into the CLI, and then you can spit out the output in another file. All right, so let's switch to VS Code where I don't have the extension installed, so there's nothing here. We're going to do everything through the terminal, and we're going to be running this little script here, poem. So it lives under the GenAISRC section. So what I can do is I can say npm GenAIScript run poem, and it will try to run the scripts. Now, this project is pretty empty and it doesn't know how to access an ELM, so it's going to crash. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to use, I'm going to say -- model llama 3.2. All right, so we're going to run a small model locally. The quality of the answer is going to be probably doubtful at time, but it's a 1.5B model, and it's generating a beautiful. You can see that we got some interesting outputs in the terminal. So let's take a look at what you usually get. The CLI writes the trace to a file, and we're going to look at that trace. So that's printed at the start and the end because things can be quite long and then you lose these links. There's also a file for the output, just for tracing and debugging purposes. Then there's a bunch of logging that's helpful. Whenever we do a request, we also now do a pre-printed rendering of the messages that kind of give you an overview of what's coming up to the cloud. And then we get the output. And at the end, what you're going to see is a preview of how many tokens you've used in every request. If we have a price estimate, we'll give it to you as well. Llama is free. And then there's a trace link. So if you open the trace, it's a markdown file, so you can just open your favorite markdown viewer and you'll see that there's a whole history of what was the configuration and what was the script, what did we run, what were the messages sent to the LM all the way to the fetch, the curl message that's equivalent to what we did, and then the output. So that's very useful to do debugging, and it's really agnostic of anything because it's just a self-contained markdown file. And if you run in an automation, you can keep that file to do further debugging. All right, so let's talk about getting this tool better installed. So right now I'm doing this npx, which is a way to run npm tools directly with our installation, but it can be a bit slow. So what you'll want to do is probably install it as a dev tool. So you're going to do npm install save dev GenAIScript, and that will install it in a package.json. And that means also you have a version. You can pin the version of GenAIScript you want to use and so forth. But the biggest benefit is once it's installed, it's fully local and you can run without internet, whereas npx requires an internet connection. All right, so now that I have it installed, what I did is added a script called called GenAI. And GenAI, that's clear on the screen just for demo purposes, and then calls the GenAI tool. So now I have a little shortcut. I can do npm run GenAI, run again, poem. Bit of a it's a 5-word shortcut. And it blew up because I forgot to mention the model. So here I can do model llama 3.2. And now it's going to run, and it's running locally. And it's, oh, wait, you didn't find poem? No files matching llama. Oh yeah, so when you do run, you have to do run, then dash dash. That's the thing. Because then all the parameters are passed by node to the command. Okay, good to know. Yes, so that worked. Now let's talk about files. What we're gonna do is we're gonna define the files that are passed into the script, and we're gonna say write a poem in emojis about file. Or a better way to do that would be to say this and then this. You don't have to worry about how this thing is named or how it should name it. Yes, squiggle. All right, so if I run this now, like before, it's going to complain that there's no files. We're going to crash, no files. So good. We're gonna feed it a file, web app, I think main bicep. That's a Azure configuration file, really nothing to do poetry about. But that's what we're gonna use. Let's use that. And what we're gonna see now in the output is that you can see the content of the file being that made it into the user message. So it was part of the file. And you can see a beautiful poem about cloud configuration. Very, very dramatic. All right, so that's great. That means we can pass in files. What I could also do is do cat web app main bicep, and then I can do npm run GenAIScript run. Then, you know what? I'm going to take the previous line. Yes, and then I'm going to say cat web app main bicep. Okay, so now it's going to go, we're going to pipe the content of main bicep into GenAIScript. It's going to read it from the standard in, and it's going to work on that. So all the stuff you'd expect from a piping CLI will work as well. This also works for images if you're interested. So for example, if instead of files we're analyzing images, about images, and I'm going to say detail low. Now I can pipe a file into the system. So we have a few files here. I think the first one is a cow. All right, it's a cow. So we can say npm run GenAIScript run poem. Then we're going to pass the cow in there. All right. Let's see what that does. And I should have done GenAI and dash dash. And of course I forgot the model. Now let's use IntelliSense. So the model, we need a model that does vision. I know 3.2 doesn't do it. We're gonna do still llama 3.2 vision. Still running Ollama. This probably means my Ollama is gonna have to load this from disk. So you can see now the prompt has the usual system prompt, then an image, beautiful preview in console, and write a poem about images. And now it's running, and it's just Ollama locally. That's taking a little bit of time processing the image, but eventually it will come out and do its thing. So if you think about the command line interface, it's a really great tool to automate the scripts. Ultimately, if you're doing GenAIScript, the end game is to use the CLI. The end game is to take these scripts that can run, that can automate things, and then use the CLI to get some more some automated results. Another application of the CLI is configuration. Also running a web server to provide a web front end to the scripts. We're going to show that. And there's also a bunch of helpers for parsers or converters to test various aspects of the CLI. I'm making up time because my poor little llama is really thinking hard about this poem about the cows. Let's open a second terminal here while it's thinking, and then we'll see. Ooh, it is heating up. All right. Let's stop a bit the rendering. All right. So what we're going to do is show another cool part of. We're going to remove this image-based thing because it's a bit slow for the demo. So let's just write poems about emojis and use Llama 3.2 model. All right. So if you have a script and you build a script, but you may have users who are not developers, and you want to expose that to them, the CLI has another tool called, you can do CLI, and then you can do serve. And what serve is going to do is start a local web server using the keys that are configured locally. So there's no cloud or anything like that. If you open this, you'll see that we have a page here, and there's a drop down to select the script in the solution. So there's only one. If you have to drag files, you can drag and drop or add them here. There's also all kinds of configuration as far as which model you want to run or so forth. And then you can run. And this provides the same user interface. So you got a trace with all the messages, and then you got the output that's coming up. So that's a very nice way to provide a user-friendly front end to your GenAI scripts without having to do too much work. Let's go back to the cow. Let's see what happened. And what did it do? Oh, it wrote a poem. Picture, computer, something. Okay. So in a nutshell, that's the command line interface. And we're going to do more videos focusing on using that command line interface to do automation. Specifically, we'll look at GitHub Actions. But if you're wondering if you can use GenAIScript outside of VS Code, absolutely use the CLI. It's well documented, and it will also allow you automating and applying these scripts in anywhere you want, not just through command line interface, not just through the Visual Studio extension. I'm rambling, so I'm going to finish this video. Up to the next one. Bye.